Hi, I'm Marcel Safier. I'm coming to you from Brisbane, Australia. I'm one of the team involved with the A&G Taylor project. I've been assisting Ron with research, and I've been the person who's got the skills, I suppose, to do some of the really in-depth stuff that he's needed to flesh out the stories for his talk. I'll just show you a few slides to just tell you a little bit about my involvement with the project. This is Ron's website, cartevisite.co.uk, which has his database of British and Irish photographers. And myself and another local to me researcher called Sandy Barry are two of the main collaborators on that database. So there's a little bit of a bio of me on Ron's website. And that's the front page of his website, where he actually introduces the project that we're going to be talking about with a little bit more detail there. And the other collaborator, Sandy, I've used some of his research to help assist me. He and I work on databasing Australian photographers, and that's a book that he published 20 years ago that's going to be republished perhaps in the next year with probably double the size of the original. And just as a side note, I also am a collaborator on the database of photographers of South Africa, like I haven't got anything else to do. I have a bigger website, which is more of a honey trap to attract contact from photographers' relations, and also material to build up my archive, which I use for my research. And a few of my interests, aside from Taylor, I'm interested in street photography worldwide, surfers paradise, the Gold Coast area where I live in Australia, where I grew up, I should say, and a few other aspects of Australian photography. I have great interest in British photography, but I naturally, being Australian based, I spend a lot more time on that. And the thing about Taylors are, they were huge, and you can see just by this photo mount how many locations, and that's been the challenge, is finding details about each of these, which Ron had the locations, but finding information to flesh out each individual location was the challenge that was put to me. That's the English mount, and that's one of their Scottish mounts. You can see they were a large organisation, which will be part of Ron's talk. And they mostly did portraiture, but I found some quite interesting photos by them on the internet. No doubt Ron will have more to share. So now I'm just going to take an opportunity just to show you in more detail what my involvement was in the project and how I did what I did. So I will share screen again. These are some of the resources, not all of them. These are just some of the main ones that I used to do the research. Anyone who's done family history research will know some of those, ancestry.com or .co.uk. Find My Past. They're the two of the largest commercial genealogy sites worldwide. Family Search is one run by the Mormons out of Utah, which has a lot of free material on it. And then there are archives.org and Hathi Trust, which have digitized literally millions of books and brought them to a searchable format, somewhat like Google Books, but much better. And then the GRO is the Government Registry Office. That's the British one, so the English one, I should say, where you can look up birth and death certificates, and there is an equivalent for Scotland's people. Newspapers.com is a Ancestry affiliated newspaper website, and the Gale Newspaper Archive is yet another newspaper archive which can be used for the sort of research I did. And don't forget Google, because when in doubt, just Google what you're looking for. You've got to be careful where you go with that in terms of how much credence you give to certain websites, but I probably, use Google hundreds and hundreds of times through fleshing out the information on A&G Taylor. And sometimes when you get an unusual name, if you search on the name in inverted commas, you'll get a lot of material. Even searching A&G Taylor was how I found those photos that I've used to illustrate my part of the talk. If you go into Ancestry, you can access digital images of all the censuses. So you don't need to study each of these in detail, but I've picked up George every 10 years in the census there, where you can see George Taylor, photographic artist, born in Aberdeen, Scotland, address being Forest Lodge in Lewisham, there with his family. This is the last census he appeared in, the 1911. And through looking at the newspapers, you can find great articles, like this is a mention of his passing away in a club in 1911, which was the same year that census was taken. So I'll show you by sharing screen some of the websites that I accessed to do the research. So you can put in all sorts of things. You could put in the name George Taylor, but it's going to be useless. You're just going to get too many hits. But if you put in something like, not even A&G Taylor, because you've got to remember with the newspapers, they rely on optical character recognition. So if text isn't perfectly picked up by the scanning, it won't turn up in your results. So there's no need to put A&G Taylor. Let's just put G Taylor. And commonly it was called A&G Taylor photographers. So that's what I'm going to search for. And then I'm going to put inverted commas so I get that specific search term, and just see what I get. And lo and behold, you can see, yes, fortunately, the optical character recognition did pick the A up, but there's no need to include it. Just putting G Taylor photographers has got 5,700 hits. So most important thing then is to sort them by date order. And you can see there's a very early reference there from 1869. But then when Ron would say to me, tell me about their operations in Swansea. Well, you can't be scrolling through the entire country. So this allows you to hone it down to a particular county, and it shows you how many hits in the database have been obtained for each of the counties. So if we go to Swansea, which is Glamorganshire, or Glamorgan, where we've got 1,600 entries, and you can actually hone it down even further by just picking the actual town that the paper was published in. However, sometimes neighbouring towns' newspapers would still carry ads for the Swansea studio. But let's just go into Swansea and let's sort them again, oldest first, so that's date order. And so Ron would say, well, I know that they were there from 1883 to whatever. And then I find an ad from 1882. So I can immediately extend the date range of the studio by the extra year. And if you click on that, you'll get an image, and you'll find the actual ad there, Castle Street, Swansea. It shows you the search terms that's picked up. You can turn that off by toggling. That takes out the search thing. So you can just do a clip of that screen. So what I usually do is I just take a little snip and highlight the area of the screen that I want to save, and then you also have to say the name of the newspaper, which this website doesn't print it for you. You've got to manually type in the Canberra Daily Leader and the date and the page number. And so I sent many hundreds of those for each of the studios operated by A&G Taylor to Ron. So I'm not going to go into too much more on the research, but that just gives you an idea what was involved. I mean, I can't even imagine how many hours I've spent on that for Ron. It's probably 50 plus anyway so far. Might be over 100. But it's a really interesting thing. And you see lots of bycatch, I call it. You'll find lots of other interesting stories